So the last speaker of this session is going to be Elsa from Universitat Politècnica de Catalunya, and she's going to be talking about Wildland Urban Interface Fires, fire impact assessments using Cfd tools. Thank you, Elsa.
Thank you, Imma. Okay, good afternoon, everybody. I'm the last one in this roundtable, so I'll try to make it short and go straight to the point. The project I want to talk to deals with CFD modeling of wildland urban interface fires scenarios at the micro scale, that is at homeowner scale. So what is CFD all about? What do we get with this type of simulations? CFD simulators, computational fluid dynamics simulators, are very powerful tools that are used in many different areas of research that are very useful to study with a high degree of precision the fire physics, that is, heat transfer mechanisms and fire dynamics. So let's see if I got the pointer. Here we go. So the main outputs that we can get out from CFD simulations are basically temperatures, heat fluxes, and air and smoke fluxes, as those images that we have just reproduced. So by this type of simulations, we actually can quantify the fire impact in different types of fire scenarios. And to us, that has multiple good applications. Like, for instance, what we can get at from those type of simulations are basic knowledge that can be useful to assess, for instance, structure survivability or sheltering capabilities, or even to evaluate fire protection systems performance, or, for instance, study hazards associated to ornamental vegetation. So in summary, we can say that we have underway a nice tool to improve the knowledge base for micro-scale risk management. And this can result in improvement of awareness, of societal awareness, and also in developing new capabilities for fire agencies, homeowners, fire practitioners, and also regulatory bodies. So we will develop this modeling framework under an European project called the WeView project, which will be funded by the DG ECHO agency from the European Commission. We're going to be 6 partners in this European project coming from 5 different European countries, and we will have our kickoff meeting in February next year. So let me comment on some of the activities that we have already programmed at the WeView project. At the very beginning, we need to define an inventory of pattern scenarios that we want to study. Actually, there are many situations that worry us a lot, like, for instance, the location of LPG tanks close to structures and other type of combustible materials that are located very close to structures. Or, for instance, as David has commented this morning, we are very worried about semi-confined spaces under basements where heat accumulation can really be very dangerous. Or, for instance, we are very worried about ornamental vegetation located as fences that can burn just like hell. So we want to define those real scenarios, but we want to actually capture the reality of the problem. We want to address the real problem, and I would like to highlight that very much. Next, we will do some sort of fire experiments in order to characterize the fire exposure. We actually need to quantify the fire exposure if we want to know what we have to protect against. So we will do some sort of fire experiments as well in the framework of that project. Next, we will do a huge amount of CFD simulation studies to get all the variables that will help us evaluate fire prevention and fire protection measures. And then we will do also demonstration activities and dissemination activities like workshops and conferences and so on. Of course, this is a very challenging project. Let me highlight some of the critical issues that we have already identified. Like, for instance, as I already said, we want to address the real problem. Actually, if we define the right questions, we will deliver useful answers. We actually want to be our research really, really worth it. So that's one thing that we really need your help in here. Then challenges related to fire experimentation. We all know that doing fire experiments are very difficult tasks. Fire experimentation is difficult. It has inherently a certain degree of uncertainty and also a scaling up problem. We can do lots of things in the lab, we can do lots of things in the field, but we will never be in the real scenario, and that's one thing that we should really keep on mind. Then regarding CFD simulations, they are also very complex. We need high computing capacity, and they are under a constant validation and improvement, meaning that CFD simulation also involves a certain degree of uncertainty. And the last bullet point, I've left it to one of the, or actually to the most critical challenge I think we have in that project, is to capture the real fire exposures. This morning, David Caballero has shown us that image from the Mati fires. So actually, we want to capture that fire exposure in our CFD modeling approach. Actually, when we are using CFD models, we have to prescribe the fire. That is, we have to predefine the fire. We are not delivering a fire prediction. We are doing a fire prescription. So what does it mean? It means that in order to make our simulations, we have to put as an input data the heat release rate of those flames, the heat content of that fuel that is burning, the emissive power of those flames, the duration of those flames, fire geometry, and so on. So that would be a critical challenge. So we have already a WeBio wish list gathering the needs for collaboration. And I would like to ask, starting for practitioners, managers, and responders, we actually need you to help us defining the specific questions to tackle to address the real problem. As I already said, WeBio can deliver useful solutions, but if we really tackle real problems. So, and also for the challenge in terms of fire, of the fire exposure, the real fire exposure, we need real fire evidences. And I will raise a point here that for further discussion, it would be nice to have a repository platform to gather graphical information from fires, videos, photos, reports. I guess that will be very useful for the WeBio project, but for most of us. Then, concerning CFD validation, CFD has been validated through a very active research community, so we need that community working. We want to share our simulation concerns, our lessons learned, and so on. And then I would kindly ask you to get engaged to the WeBio project from the very beginning. We need your feedback from practitioners, from researchers, from homeowners, very much from the very beginning of the project. So we will be doing demonstration activities, we will be doing dissemination activities, and we'll be very happy to have you all on board. And finally, the opportunities of that project. Ideally, we will deliver scientific evidence to validate or refute all those hypotheses concerning fire impact, fire prevention, fire protection. As we have already mentioned, there are some arbitrary rules of thumb to fire management at the microscale, for instance, those famous 25 meters. So we think that there is a room for improvement in here, and we will try to do our best. Then our final outcome should be guidelines for for improving fire risk management. So I think that that's a good thing for all of us. And finally, let me just offer again our fire experimentation expertise. As Miguel has mentioned an hour ago, we will use our fire monitoring expertise in these experiments, but actually that can be applied to any type of wildfire research activity that needs fire monitoring. So if you need fire monitoring expertise, please let us know, that we will be very happy to collaborate. And of course, the part of the CFD modeling, it's going to be useful for representing fire management scenarios, but it can also be useful to understand and to study all different types of problems, of fire physics problems. So if you have heat transfer problems to resolve, if you have fire dynamics problems to resolve, please let us know, that we will be very happy to collaborate. That's all from the talk. Thanks very much.